The account of Gideon in the Book of Judges contains a specific look at asymmetrical warfare, a scenario where a small, unconventional force manages to dismantle a numerically superior enemy. Gideon begins the campaign with 32,000 Israelite troops. They are positioned against a Midianite force of such scale that the text describes them as a numerically superior force. Despite being outnumbered, Gideon receives a directive that runs counter to military logic. 32,000 men are too many for the coming battle. The reasoning for this reduction is based on the credit for the victory. If Israel wins with their current numbers, the narrative argues they will claim the success was achieved through their own strength. This sets up this central problem. How can a commander lose 99% of his manpower and still expect to secure a total rout of the enemy? The reduction happens in two stages. First, Gideon filters the troops based on their fear. He announces that anyone who is afraid is free to leave the front lines. 22,000 men leave the campaign immediately, leaving Gideon with 10,000. The second stage involves a water test. As the men drink from a stream, a group of just 300 men is separated from the other 9,700. The division is based on posture. Most of the men knelt down to drink directly from the water. The 300 who were chosen stayed on their feet and lapped water from their hands, maintaining a position that allowed them to keep their eyes on their surroundings. Gideon now has his 300 soldiers, but the scale of the opposing army remains a source of personal concern for him. To gather intelligence, Gideon performs a night reconnaissance mission. He moves through the grass to the edge of the Midianite camp to listen. He overhears an enemy soldier describing a dream about a loaf of barley bread destroying a Midianite tent. The interpretation he hears confirms that the Midianites are already experiencing a drop in morale and fear an Israelite attack. These two elements, the selection of the 300 and the intelligence gathered at the camp, shift the psychological momentum. Gideon now has a specific force and the knowledge that his enemy is vulnerable to panic. For the raid, the 300 men are given unconventional equipment. They do not carry swords. Each man receives a trumpet, an empty pitcher, with a torch hidden inside it. Gideon divides the men into 3 companies of 100. They move into flanking positions at 3 different points, surrounding the Midianites. They wait for the middle watch, just after the changing of the guard, to ensure the enemy is at maximum disorientation. At Gideon's signal, all 300 men smash their pitchers, reveal their torches, and blow their trumpets at the same time. The goal is to use sound and light to create the illusion of a much larger army. By attacking from 3 sides in the dark, they make it impossible for the Midianites to accurately gauge the size of the force they are facing. The Midianites wake to the sudden noise and appearance of fire. Panic spreads through the camp as soldiers react to the sensory overload. In the confusion, the Midianites begin fighting one another. This internal chaos leads to a total retreat, with the enemy army fleeing the site without Gideon's men ever needing to engage in hand-to-hand combat. This maneuver demonstrates how sensory tactics and psychological pressure can be used to neutralize a large numerical advantage. Once the initial lines were broken by the 300, the rest of the Israelite forces were called in to pursue the retreating army and complete the victory. This brings us back to the original mandate, the specific requirement to use only 300 men. While the tactics were effective, they were only necessary because the conventional army had been removed from the equation. The account suggests that numerical disadvantage is used as a prerequisite for this kind of success. By removing standard military resources, the narrative highlights the source of the victory as something other than human effort. By stripping away reliance on numbers and self-sufficiency, the account of Gideon concludes that when the victory is won, the credit belongs entirely to divine intervention.